Val Heffelfinger and the Falcon. All of the legends here in the room. How are you both?
Doing all right.
I'm tired emotionally. I'm tired physically. I'm tired penisly. Just tired all around.
I've been wondering how your penis hasn't been more worn out.
It's true. Well, since the quarantine
First time
started.
it's made the list, like the guy's been through a lot.
Yes, good. Well, that's positive. Val, we're definitely not living in the Bush administration anymore. I kind of wish we were still. I'm not gonna lie.
Since how messed up is stuff when you pine for the Bush administration? That's whack.
That is wacky.
And Tony Blair, a more wistful time. In the Bush administration, we had more innocent things like globalization to deal with.
Yeah, and I still didn't really understand what it meant, even then.
I got tear gassed a bunch of times for that. It's not fun, guys.
Jeez. Well, good. So number one, hello everyone, welcome for joining us live. Thank you to everyone on the podcast. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. You guys are great. I'm glad to see Scott B, AO, Art of War 40k DU down under. Wow, took me. I hacked that. I understood it now. I hope that's Diffie. Warmaster Virulent. Hey, pretty big week in 40k. Pretty big week. How are you guys feeling? Or just before that, how are you feeling in life? Fuck 40k off. Let's just throw it in the bin. Val.
Warhammer.
Come on, talk to me about where you're at. What you've been doing the past week.
Past week? More of the same. Just staring at the wall. Twiddling my thumbs. No, I don't know. The last week has been... I'm actually quite literally more of the same. I've been having a good work week. Getting ready. Baby's coming. We gotta get ready for that.
Did you get that bassinet? Did you do it? My one piece of baby advice?
Oh, hello. No, man, I already had to. We're one of the last ones in our friend group. So we have been really, really generously gifted a lot of secondhand baby stuff, which is great. So we've been super lucky that way.
Yeah, you are lucky. I was like the first in my friend group and family group for my generation. So the bags of clothes we got were like from the 70s and 80s. And they saw no play. They saw no play whatsoever. I think I got one trouser. One trouser got pulled out.
Yeah, but your babies were fly as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm definitely a late bloomer, like you, Val. Definitely no kids on the horizon. So I don't imagine I'll get anything from the 70s. And also, it terrifies me. Probably never have kids. That's too much responsibility for me. I sometimes feel like just doing this show where I don't have to talk about anything that I don't want to is too much responsibility. So the idea of a child is...
Listen, Rob, I have 3, and the prospect still terrifies me. So I don't know. It's not.
It doesn't go away.
It's just a thing. You wake up and you do it every day, and then you fall asleep and you think, hopefully I don't have any more of these. But then you keep doing it, and anyway.
Can I just say a big shout out to Scotty? Hand-me-down Warhammer, though. Imagine that. You guys have got hand-me-down Warhammer covered.
Yeah, that's true. I've got enough armies. I found my Tau army this week, which was nice. I hadn't seen it in 3 years. In my shed, but I was cleaning out to get my my lawnmower, and there it was.
So for the 5 minutes you need your lawnmower every year? Yeah. My question. You have some pretty extreme temperature swings out there.
We do.
Isn't it bad to store models in a really hot shed or a really, really cold shed?
Well, I'll tell you, last year I forgot my models in my truck one day. When after an event, not an event, after get together a couple guys, and my custodian guard were covered in about a centimeter layer of frost when I went out to the truck the next morning.
Okay.
So because it was minus 45 that night.
Was it
Wow.
was it very damp inside the cab before it froze very badly?
No, it's just how the weather works. Once it gets to minus 45, Val, like everything, it doesn't matter. Like my hair goes white, which is super cool to see at that temperature. Like you walk outside long enough and everything just white. It's good. It's good. Everything hurts, but it's inside you instead of outside of you. Like when it's like a wet cold, like you get probably out there. So like
Wet cold.
Yeah.
Actually, I will tell you this, Rob, as a Canadian,
Yes.
the good English weather, which is like 2 degrees and moist, as our prime minister would say,
Do all the talking.
is so cold. It is so much cold. I will take minus 10 over like +1 any
Plus,
day.
what over an English +1?
Yeah.
Because of the moisture.
Because it's just bone chilling. Awful.
As someone who grew up in the Maritimes, it was very interesting to move to where it's very dry here. Like the temperature dew point spreads constantly, like a 20-degree separation. So like you can go out in minus 40-degree weather, not notice it for probably 30, 40 seconds. You're just like, okay, whatever. You can go out in like a t-shirt, and then your knuckles burn up and like everything starts to hurt you on the inside. Like
I just
like
have
the
to say
Grinch.
something here, which is I think we just got as far away from 40K as we ever have. The temperature dew point spread might be the furthest thing from Warhammer we could talk about.
It's part of my job. Part of my job is I have to study that stuff from a weather perspective. Anyway.
I have not a story, but that's interesting because that now completes my circular knowledge of moisture in the air. Because when I was in Australia, for the very first CanCon that I ever went to, where I met both Adam, I think's watching, and Diffie for the first time, I was talking to the guys. I was like, "Oh, it's hot here." They were like, It's the humidity that will get you. So now it's interesting that in the cold, it's also the moisture that will get you. Like moisture is dangerous everywhere apart from the middle temperatures.
It's actually good. It's good to have the moisture because then you're cold, right? Like there are a lot of hypothermia cases up here because people don't realize it. Well, that and all of the rampant alcohol abuse.
I was going to say the heavy drinking.
The combo is real strong.
Yeah, big shout out to Orthober Studio. Thank you for raiding us. We are 3 individuals who have been involved in the 40K community in some ways, but also, most importantly, often try not to talk about it as much as we can. If you don't know who...
Yeah, we're a droid, if you will.
Yeah, we're laconic on the subject of 40K. Yeah.
You swirl around the topic of 40K, and eventually we get to something.
Yeah, we do, and we are just pining for the Bush administration days.
Oh, okay. You know what I did this week with my wife, and we've been watching it for a while. And Rob, I recommend it to you too because you're not Canadian. You should watch Schitt's Creek if you're feeling down.
Ooh, and I am.
If you're feeling down about life, watch Schitt's Creek. It's just an amazing little sitcom from Canada. It's become very popular in North America because it went on U.S. Netflix this year. It's been around here for about 6 years. It had its final season this year. Anyway, after particularly the first season, once it turns from being the fish out of water show it is into a fish out of water / redemption story TV show, it just feels good. Like every episode makes you feel really good about yourself and about the people you're watching. I love it. Whenever I'm feeling down, my wife and I sit down, slam it down.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Sometimes I like to watch Letterkenny to make me when I miss both of you. I watch a bit of Letterkenny, but I think that's. I also got really into Kim's Convenience, which I think is another Canadian show.
Also a good show. Yes. Also,
the actual Kim's Convenience Store is a block from my house.
Shut up.
There are no other Kim's Conveniences.
That's great. I've raided.
Started out as a play as well. And that play was written and created 2 other blocks from my house. So there you go. We're in Kim's Convenience Land right here, guys.
It's a great show. If you guys haven't seen it, it's about a Korean family who they own a convenience store and the trials and tribulations that they go through. I also don't know if when I'm watching it, I don't think it's just massively racist because of the accents. Because, like, I don't think it is, but what
It's
happens...
your Downton Abbey.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it's like that. What ho?
Master Bates.
Master Bates, don't allow this to happen. Right, okay, well, some big 40k news is that the Tabletop Tactic guys, I think, are looking sexier by the day.
Oh my god.
One piece of news. Better looking by the day. Have they been doing push-ups? What's going on?
The only thing I could think of is they've been doing push-ups. Day one quarantine.
My favorite sub story of the Tabletop Tactics bromance is they have been quarantining and self-isolating together. Like Ben is like living in the shack behind the house and
making TikTok videos
so that they can still. I still haven't found his TikTok account. I really got to look into that. So they can still produce Warhammer. Like the 40k meta right now is Tabletop Simulator and whatever they're doing on Tabletop Tactics. It's hilarious.
And TikTok. That's the other thing as well. Have you been keeping up with any? Have there been any 40k TTS tournaments? Any big ones?
There've been a couple smaller ones. The Tactical Tortoise recently did one that he's been commentating. I think the finals or the semifinals were this last weekend. Nick Rose was playing with some salamanders, which was interesting because they don't see very much play. Yeah. So the little bit of the TTS going on. A little bit of the TTS.
It's quite cool. I covered an Age of Sigmar tournament this Saturday, doing commentary over the day. But it at least feels alive enough to be having some conversations about some of the stuff that's going on, even if it's just some it's a great opportunity for meme builds. We saw some very fun meme builds this weekend, which people obviously wouldn't purchase. And obviously the minutiae and the micro mechanics mean you can't really have anywhere near as an articulate game as you would on the tabletop. But it's still pretty cool, and it's been keeping it alive for me at least. So that's fun, and I didn't know that people were playing salamanders. That's cool. Owen says, I love the way the Tabletop Tactics videos have been unraveling together, like the guys. They've been slowly emotionally unraveling over the time in lockdown.
Actually, shout out to those guys. They've been using this period to do a lot of experimenting. They've changed up a lot of their production style. They've added a bunch of elements. They've been doing different kinds of editing. They've actually been innovating a lot because they had kind of a really standard format. I guess about a year ago they moved into their studio, and now I think they're starting to really play with the camera toys and equipment that they have in a bigger way. Like on that, did you see the lighting in that little bit that they did for the playtester stuff?
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah. Yeah, they really let people know that they got a studio going now, right? Like, they're like, let's advertise this shit out of this. It's really impressive. They're just lovely blokes as well. Like,
they're exactly as they appear on screen, which is great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. But that video that we're talking about is a video about them being playtesters, and therefore we can no longer trust a word they say. And inside of that, that's obviously true. That's not true. I was joking.
For sure.
Of course. It was sarcasm.
Not from me. Not from me. I don't trust a single one of them.
That's why I wear the glasses. You can't see when I'm cross-eyed. What was that bit?
Anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is that there's some new there's a new phase been added to 40k. I think that's the real big news. I mean, there's some AdMech stuff from the weekend as well we could talk about, but a new phase added to 40k. 40k. The command phase.
40K,
it doesn't
4D.
Yeah, in 4D. I mean, it doesn't have lots of information about it. But
No.
It just says both players muster strategic resources and tactical abilities. What do you two think about this?
Just seems like a toned down hero phase that fixes up a couple timing issues we've had with the 8th edition of 40k that have caused all sorts of grief amongst raw players in particular.
They didn't quite go the distance, like really defining because there's also like inside of phases that maybe they'll get into.
So next to it, there's a panel. So there's a panel. There's a panel for out of phase rules. That's also on here. Oh,
Yeah, so
okay,
that's
sorry.
like as if it was the moving phase, as if it was the shooting phase. They clarify like that a strat wouldn't apply to that, but otherwise everything else takes effect. That's cool.
Yeah, that was FAQ'd before though. This is just better worded.
Yeah.
That was something we had, not the last FAQ, but the one before. So,
But the command phase, I think, like Pete said there, it does provide a nice opportunity for sort of, saying like this is when you calculate your points, or like this is there's all sorts of stuff like going back from when I first started playing 40k for
40K.
serious in seventh, which is like there's a lot of corner cases and stuff that timing wise need distinct phases, and a nice discrete catch-all at the start of the turn sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, all right, that does seem decent. I the one thing for me that I feel like it might add, which I think 40k is especially in need of, is I feel like it's been quite hard for them to write any sort of special rules for characters in 40k. Like obviously, like you've got the command points resource, which allows you to be the general, but your general inside the game, or your warlord specifically, doesn't have really. I mean, reroll ones, great opportunity. Maybe he has a warlord trait that does another thing, but there's nothing that you get to like proc and just be like, I'm going to use this on this guy, or I'm going to keep my warlord alive to do X. And so you might be able to put some more actual abilities on the data sheets for the generals, for the warlords, and create that kind of idea of a person leading the army, right? I mean, we see in like Imperial Guard, for instance, like their ability to do like Vox commands and stuff, which is cool. But I feel like it allows them a bigger design space for characters who most traditionally, and if you guys don't agree, let me know, like are standing around giving auras out most of the time.
I would. So I think Pete just gave some great advice to Gorka Morka, holla in the chat. Yeah, man, don't glue stuff on like 2 minutes before an edition change. You're gonna pick wrong. It's gonna be wrong, whatever you go with.
Yeah.
So
that's the best thing. Like right now, it's probably Rocksaws and Hand Flamers, but tomorrow they could drop something, and it's those little
hot dogs.
and it's Weber guns. Yeah, only use Weber guns for the rest of your life. So just
I only want to use Weber guns forever.
As 40k guys, maybe as an AOS guy, I hear you're pretty big deal in that realm. Can you tell us the future? How do command points work in AOS? Because I suspect we're moving to an AOS style system, and I hear that the supply of command points is a little bit more constrained in AOS, from what my little birds tell me.
Yeah, great questions, actually. Yeah, so old edition, there was just one. Your general was the only one able to do command ability. So your army pretty much orientated about building around a general. So it was quite nice. Obviously, that changed this edition, where any character could use command points to activate their command ability. So that gave rise to some great things where two command abilities would be used in some situation to make like a unit super good, for example. There was some problems in that a really simple rule obviously to put in would be don't allow a command ability to stack, i.e. use the same command ability over and over. They obviously didn't notice that, so there was the legendary tale of a man doing 192 damage with one grot.
Let me reframe the question, Rob.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get command points for your army in AOS? Like, so how is it generated? It's not detachment based.
No,
so
it's just at the start. You just get one at the start of the turn. But a design space that they've been really exploring over the past 2 years since that edition dropped is how to generate new command points. So some characters, and a lot of the recent new books have got a lot of characters that have it on their war scrolls, like baked in. So at the start of your, like Lord Croak, for instance, at the start of your hero phase, you'll roll 3 dice. Any 4-ups, you'll get an extra command point.
Okay.
Love Lord Croak.
Ooh, Seraphon players love a bit of Lord Croak.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's so outrageously good. So yeah, that's the other thing that I'm quite excited about by the command phase is they might explore They might explore being able to give, like, you might pick a warlord trait, or you might pick a character because, like, someone like Gulliman might just bring you flat 3 command points for just turning up.
Well, he does now.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
But
So
they did say too that specifically in the command phase, it will be used for generating command points. So I wonder if, but like one a turn just ain't gonna fly if we're still using 8th edition codexes, because that's just not enough CP.
Well, it depends on if they give you what kind of pool they give you at the beginning, right? So that's the other thing. So if a pool is like 15 CP to start, and then you subtract from there pre-game or in the first command phase or however they want to do it, then auto regenning like 1 a turn isn't a terrible thing. But yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot. I don't know. For me, the introduction of the command phase, and like you said, we all start with more CP, but we know that we spend CP to unlock different like units into the army. So it feels like that there's going to be a lot of bookkeeping before the game starts. But hopefully that's just in your list writing, so it's the same level of bookkeeping, right? It's just the same thing. Which is cool. And then I feel like it's an exciting phase. And then, because obviously in Age of Sigmar, the big difference is the psychic phase happens where the command phase would be. In this, you're allowed to move and do the psychic phase. And I think that is that feels good, because you've got a lot of frontline like casters, and you don't want to like. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I'm not like. I suppose you've only ever done that. Have you felt that that's really useful? I think when I saw.
I liked it.
Okay.
Like in general, because there's a lot of stuff in the psychic phase that allows you to shoot out a sequence or move again, or like there's all sorts of stuff that having that move and then the psychic phase kind of juices up some of the abilities you have. So I've liked it. I don't know what the reverse would be like.
Well, I actually think I like it a lot, because I think one of the things it does is, like you say, if you want to move again or shoot, maybe you might have to put your psyker in the dangerous spot where. Mm-hmm. So there's that risk versus reward. So I move before I know the action is guaranteed, because at the end of the day I have to roll it, and my opponent could stop it. So actually that's a really great bit of risk versus reward and some gameplay, and I love that. I always think that makes exciting games for me personally. I think it makes...
And there's... sorry.
No, it's okay.
Continue.
Go for it.
I was going to say, less telegraphing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Like in Age of Sigmar, though, there tends to be a lot of... The problem... Or the other... So looking at it from the other side, in Age of Sigmar, when you do all the psychic stuff in the hero phase, you have to have prepared to do that the turn before. So there's like a lot more mitigation. So as your opponent can just be like, well, I'll be outside of 18 where all of his scary spells are. So, I really like the psychic phase hasn't moved also to the beginning, because there's enough of a fundamental difference. And a whole bunch of people will have developed some really good skills in moving and doing their psychic stuff, right? So big fan. And I really like but they haven't clarified the out of phase rules enough for you, Val, basically.
Oh no, I'm curious to see how they deal with it, because I think they'll touch on it, I'm sure, but it's more like how there's a lot of stuff in 40K that's like at the end of the phase, and the timing of that, and I don't. Pete might know this in more detail, but to me, like the timing of multiple things happening at the end of the phase, always seemed a bit confusing. And yeah.
Well, end of anything that's timed at the same time, i.e., end of phase, it's always the player in control gets to determine the order, but that's not super intuitive for some newer players, for example. So I agree there. I think this fixes a lot more the we were kind of talking about these out of phase things where they, because of kind of sloppy rules writing, they've created these scenarios where we have stratagems where people don't know if they can use them infinitely or not due to the way they've worded how stratagems work. So like there are admech stratagems that I would say are clearly rules as intended, not something you should be able to do over and over and over again, and are played that way in tournaments. But like a strictly rules as written player can quite like easily argue, yes, I could use this 3 times if I wanted to, because there's no such phase as whatever they're describing it within the stratagem. So having this and saying like anything that we say is, at the beginning of, this is when it is, like at the beginning of the game or at the beginning of the turn, it's in this command phase. So that will clear that up quite a bit if that's what we're doing, which is I hope so. I would assume that's where they're going with this. Outside of however we're handling CP now. So
Yeah, honestly, I think it's really exciting. It's a lot to digest, right?
oh yeah,
And the game.
Yeah, it's actually why when you were saying like the tabletop simulator meta or whatever, like have you been following? Like the second there's a new edition released, it's like the difference between like the picture of the Big Mac and then like the Big Mac you actually get. Like now I'm just looking at them like I'm good. You know, I
mean, I still eat the Big Mac though.
Well, at the end of the day, you eat the Big Mac.
Even the picture of the Big Mac.
I'm not even allowed to like go to the McDonald's right now. So fantasizing about the Big Mac is way better.
Where are your rebellious hearts? Don't go to McDonald's. Go to your local burgeria or whatever they're called.
Okay, Rob, but the closest McDonald's to me is 3-hour drive away. It's 340 kilometers away. So
there's probably no greater there's no greater nightmare than Tim Hortons lunch. So Pete probably does appreciate good fast food when he can get it.
When I first moved here, they just had an A&W for fast food.
Oh, that's not bad. What more do you need?
And a Tim Hortons, and that was it. We had nothing else. So it made losing weight when I first got here very easy, because like you can only eat so many Mama and Papa burgers before you're like, okay, I needed to make a change.
What is this chain? I've never heard of it.
A&W?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
Both Pete and I expressed some clear passion for A&W.
Yeah, clear passion. Yeah. What is it? Is it just a burger joint?
Yes.
It's a burger and root beer joint. Root beer is their claim. Like they do a mean root beer. And,
it is a creamy vanilla delicious root beer served in a frosted glass.
Yes, unless you live where I live. No, it's just like a burger joint. They recently, in the last few years, moved to a like no hormone, everything is pure meat menu, or they have their Beyond Beef. They were the first ones to do the like vegan route as well. If you wanted it,
have you had the Beyond Meat burger?
I have.
Oh, it's great. It's really good, but scarily similar for me.
It's
as someone
okay.
Okay.
Well, I've actually yet to do it. I've watched a few videos on the making of it. I watched a cool video where a guy gives it to Bill Gates. Yeah, and they have one together. That was nice.
Is that to stop him using
the onion rings are good.
Is that to stop him using the 5G to kill us all?
No. The vector is the vaccine. Come on. Activated by 5G.
Sorry. Yes, I get confused so much. Yeah, Beyond Meat was really weird first time I had it. I had it in Nashville, and I was like, oh, this is scarily like meat for me. Maybe a bit too close on the nose.
It's not wildly surprising me. I read a really influential book in my life with something called Fast Food Nation. Again, written in the heart of the Bush administration. Great book. Mm-hmm. Actually, a little bit before. I think it was published in 2000. But anyway,
was it by Naomi Klein?
Like,
Was it by Naomi Klein?
No, same era as No Logo though. It was by something Schleichinger, I believe.
Okay.
But it was kind of like it's up there with Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which is an expose on the meatpacking industry at the turn of the century, the 20th century. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is there's a sequence in it which left a massive impact on me, where he's describing going to New Jersey, which is where a lot of food flavoring is made in various chemical plants by the side of the turnpike there. And he walked in and he was blindfolded, and they made him like just smell a vial of something, and he just smelled like fresh grilling burgers. And that's where he reveals that a lot of fast food is actually flavorless because it's been, frozen and processed and stuff like that. So a lot of the flavors you're tasting are actually artificial flavors and salt. So it's not surprising to me that if you can nail the texture with a weird assortment of dyed beans and stuff, which is I think what the Impossible Burger is, you can make it taste like a fast food burger, because a fast food burger is literally not real. It is an artificial flavor.
Oh wow, that's some
unless you go to Wendy's.
Agreed. Also, it's a lot like Tropicana. Tropicana, they do the same thing. They put perfume in Tropicana, so it tastes like
You watch your mouth about Tropican, okay?
Just saying that's the case. Anyway, maybe the command phase of it like Tropicana. Not sure. Anyway, great way to circle back, Rob. Nailed it. Other questions? There's some AdMech stuff out this week. Does anyone know? Has you seen that?
No, I actually at this moment.
It's pretty exciting stuff. I'm doing a show on Thursday about it. But yeah, what do you think?
Sorry. I think AdMech definitely got the. So far, we haven't seen Imperial Knights haven't been leaked yet, unless it happened this morning. But Renegade Knights, Demons, and AdMech, basically everything's been leaked for them now. And AdMech definitely got the good stuff. They definitely got the best of it so far. Not seeing what Imperial Knights have gotten, like AdMech look amazing. Just they've got so many good things coming. I can't understand. Ugh.
I think
by the way, can I just do a quick jog to an aside? Rob lied to me.
Oh, why?
What did
yes,
he lie about?
Be honest,
I did lie. Rob. I did lie. Well, I didn't lie. I was mistaken. I did not inhale. Yeah, I was mistaken. Right?
Get your Clinton era bullshit out of here. All right.
Yeah, guys, come on.
You did have sexual relations with that woman.
Such an innocent time that we were worried about that. We were worried about if he inhaled and if he really did get a blowjob, and now we're like, oh man, things escalated.
Also, he could just, when there was problems with race relations, he just went on Arsenio Hall and like hit the saxophone.
Played the saxophone, yeah. Oh man, Jinx.
I wish more people would just sax their way out of problems.
Right? Like, can you imagine if like Trump would solve everything if he just came out and was like, like it'd be amazing. That's what a saxophone sounds like, guys. Just so you know. Just in case the kids don't know what a saxophone is, because for some reason, no longer part of popular music.
No.
What did the saxophone do? It used to be in every important song, had a wailing sax in the background. No longer.
I think it's Yanni. I think Yanni killed all woodwind instruments for the current generation. So now we're stuck. No one uses. No one blows on anything anymore. It's too sexual.
That's true. That's the Bush administration again. It was that hard swing to like family values. Just killed woodwind. Too sexy.
Yeah.
Too sexy.
Okay, back to 40K.
That was a good aside, though. Rob? That was a good aside. So I showed you that the Exalted Bloodthirsters, Exalted Lord of Change, etc., would be getting rules in the Psychic Awakening book, and therefore I was like, they're putting Forge World models in. How exciting is that? Oh my god!
Specifically the AdMech models.
No, I didn't. I said it would be cool if they were there. I did not say the AdMech ones are in there. That, sir, is a lie. Sir. Yeah.
Well, I know exactly when this exchange happened. I'm gonna find the tape. I'm gonna
expose me.
I will say they did do something.
What did they do?
In that the Stratocopter, the flying shitty transport that has the worst rules. It says they can take Secutari. They actually went the extra mile and made sure the Secutari keyword was in there, because usually they forget that there's a whole Forge World range of models with a keyword that nothing in the actual codex has. So good on them. So they did put one bit of Forge World good in there, in that they remembered they made models for AdMech at one point for Forge World that like 3 people have played. So
I'm really happy about that. That's good. That's a huge positive. I
think.
The
really bad, at least right now, maybe in 9th it'll be incredible, but the really bad flyer of the 3, the one that's not good, the other 2 are potentially good. One is potentially good. The other is okay. But the terrible one remembered that Forge World existed.
Did you see the? Now this is. I'm not one for ever discussing prices of the. It's a luxury hobby. It's a luxury hobby at the end of the day. But one of the things I did notice was I saw how cheap the flyers were. Like, I think they rock in at like maybe 110 to 130 points, something like that. Is that wrong?
The shooty one is somewhere between 160 and 200 points, depending on if they made a mistake about the heavy phosphor blaster or not, which someone needs to fix, because otherwise now the Castellan robots are broken. So that needs to be addressed. I've already let people know that someone should address it. But anyway, because the flyer, I think it's 160 right now, or 165 if you go based on the shooty one. But it has heavy phosphor blasters listed at 0 points, which theoretically makes the ones in the Codex also 0 points, which makes Castellan robots with triple 45 points apiece instead of the 110 they normally are.
I'm
and
into
that's
that.
bad. That's
into
bad.
That.
Castellan robots were already borderline playable, other than the fact that they died, which everything does in this game. But if you can play them for 45 points, 6 of them with a small CP investment kill anything in the game. So, dropping them 330 points in one go is pretty big for the unit.
Sorry, I just zoned back in. Why are Castellan robots so cheap now?
No, they might.
So in Engine War, they list heavy phosphor blasters, which is the main armament for the Castellan robot, as 0 points.
What? Not the Castellan fist?
No, not the fist.
I only have fists and one flamer.
Well, you listened to Reese and you made a poor choice, because Reese talked a big game about fists for a long time, and no one ever used them until they got that strat where you could deep strike in and punch somebody. But prior to that, they never stopped playing. And even after that, they stopped playing once. And then people were like, okay, it wasn't actually that good. So we're just going to go back.
Maybe it would be better if I rolled 350 dice in one shooting phase.
That might help. Yeah.
So with Engine War, they list them as 0 points, which drops each Castellan robot by, I think it's 75 points a pop, 60 points a pop. Because I believe they're 20 or 25 each in the core rulebook. So it's not someone needs to be like, this is only for the flyer, or the flyer is going to go up 50 points and become unusable. At least in 8th edition version. Who knows? 9th edition, it's a Wild West, guys. Who knows what 9th edition is going to make things worth in terms of what they do. So.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, they have said that they are going to organise the terrain good enough that line of sight will be effective. So probably, I'm expecting across the board sweeping changes to shooting, because obviously that's now been nerfed. So I just want to see half price guns, tanks half price. That's what I want to see.
Tanks, vehicles are definitely. They're definitely trying to put a big push on vehicles and monsters this edition. It's very clear with what they've been talking about.
I mean, if you want to hit the hurry up button and you want your edition to play faster, you want to basically make it so that a 200 model horde is not a common build type.
Yep.
So,
but also, if you also want your edition to be faster, maybe you should invent one tank with 87 guns on it.
And forget one of them. Forget that you put one on it. And have to create a stratagem for that one because you forgot it was there.
Was it the Hunter Thriller missile?
The Hunter whatever missile for the repulsor. They forgot that they had one on it. And when you see the bit, it makes sense because it looks like it could be anything, like a fucking coffin. So, but yeah, there we go. You forgot it existed, so you created a strat instead of making people pay 8 points for it, like you do with every other vehicle that has it. Yeah.
Have you ever watched anyone just roll repulsor shots? It's the most boring experience of your life.
Yes.
Just
I also love that they're also not only are there 5 different weapons or 6 different weapons on it, but they're all strength 5 minus 1 AP. It's hilarious. But I've come to love the repulsor. I think it's a cool flying land raider.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also model-wise, I think it looks rad. But honestly, it bores me to fucking tears watching someone roll it because they have to be they're being I bless them. They're being really precise. They're like, this is D6. Yeah, this is this many. I'm like, listen, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, for doing this all correct. Yeah, but
see you, but.
Yeah, but stop this. And Jack Spencer on Facebook says I could listen to Repulsor hate all day. I don't really have any more hate to throw at it, but
it's
okay.
The penultimate 4-in-1 vehicle. If you want to go 4-in-1 at an event, man, just run 3 of them. Repulsor Executioner.
One of the things I'm very curious to see is, and I think you guys just sort of touched on it, is how well do the terrain rules balance against the killiness of 40K? So like how much defense has been added to the game with these terrain rules? And also then how do other things interact with those terrain rules? Like what does ignores cover do now? You know, does that mean I can shoot through that thing that blocks line of sight? You know, like I'm just very, very curious. Like blast, like the idea of blast versus hordes. It'd be cool if there are like terrain features that nullify the blast rule. You know, there's all kinds of things that you can do to make things interesting and make sure that armies do get higher innate defense based on the terrain layout. Also, they're going to recommend terrain setups that, from what I understand, have blocking pieces of terrain mid-board, which is something that I think players don't intuitively understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you see like players just having a go at the shop, a lot of times it's deployment zones with terrain, open field with some like I don't know, craters or something, and then they go home in 10 minutes kind of upset.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they use like those AdMech pieces of terrain. That look so cool. The Munitorum things, but they don't block anything. Like, oh, I'm hiding behind a ladder. Come get me.
Well, I think they've said that they're gonna have like pieces trained like specified as X, so they're gonna be keyworded. Yeah. So it can be a ladder, but you can just say it's all blocking line of sight, which is cool. Like, I think that's actually really fun. And if they are doing away with hordes, and it is going to be a lot more, I like the idea that there's going to be some movement. I've got to move around a corner to shoot. That gives you some counterplay in the movement phase, which is obviously really decent. And it makes other units really good. And because I would say that blocking the board out with units is also a really good counterplay. But if hordes are going to be gone, fair enough. I mean, it feels like, though, that's a tough, not a tough sell. That's not what I'm trying to say, but like you think Gene Stealer Colts, not Gene Stealer Colts, sorry. You think Tyranids, you think Gene Stealers, like yeah. And if it's all just big monsters, that's great. But you know, I guess Hive Tyrant's pretty.
One thing that's really, really tough to balance. I think this really showed in 8th edition is when they went to like everything has wounds, then the base value of one wound on the table. So like you can think of a grot at 3 points, 2 points, whatever it is.
Yeah.
3 points. Just having that wound on the table taking up space, I think was definitely undercosted. And I think you got that with conscripts in the beginning, all that, so that you could do things like gob up the board and just make it very, very hard to move around, and you could do things like that. Whereas if they probably, even though it's very, very killy, one of the best defenses to that was to just flood the table with models. So I'm curious to see how well they've addressed that, because I think one of the big problems with 40K and its balance is just the scale that they use for points. Like, to me, like a standard game of 40K should be like 10,000 points, and a Space Marine should be 100 points or something like that. Like they need to have more granularity in how much things cost to be able to really represent that difference better, because eventually what they keep having happen is they cut, and then you get stuck at the bottom of the range, like wedged against 0 points and too many. So that, like, when you're cutting the cost of a model down, you're doing, if you have a 10-point model, you knock 2 points off it, you just reduced it by 20%. So they needed, so that to me is why things got really heavily weighted towards infantry, is that they couldn't get the actual relative value right of an individual infantry model.
It's a really good point, a really interesting and great point. Yeah, I hadn't thought that before. That's would you think, like, seeing something like, do you think it would be like insane to just like times the points values of everything by 10,000, like give yourself like scale it up, factor it up, is that right? I don't know if I've got the words right there, but you could multiply everything by 10, and then that just gives you so much more room to adjust points values. But I don't know why they would. I think a large part of why they wouldn't do that is because in their world you're still handwriting these lists. So. No. I was in a conversation about that, if you're interested.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's because they don't want their customers to feel like their collection is now worth less. Like,
they don't want to inflate the points.
Yeah, like they don't want someone to be like, I had a 10,000 point army. Like, yeah, they don't want to, like, I've got a 100,000 point army now, or like, do you know what I mean? I had 10,000 points, now I've got 100,000 points. So they don't want people. I don't know why. Like, they didn't want to do that. That was the reasoning was because of the customers' feelings on it, if I remember rightly. And this is a conversation I had 4 years ago. Like,
if I was Games Workshop, I would be, and especially in those days when they were just starting to learn about their customer, and the customer still really didn't trust them. I could see them being very, very scared to do things like that. But I don't know. Maybe as time goes on, they'll realize that they're just making the right decision is the better way to go.
Yeah, I think that makes this. It's a really sensible decision as well. But like, so we have heard some other news. We have heard some other news that which is pretty big, especially for both of you. Is that Reese on his podcast? I don't know actually what it's called. That's super.
Signals from the front line.
Signals from the front line.
Yeah, I
love hearing Rob deliver ITC information because it is a game of broken telephone and it's fantastic. So yeah.
All right. I'm gonna nail it. I'm gonna nail it right now. Reese, coming up from an extra in Hobo with a shotgun.
He's not
His
wrong.
quarantine look is strong.
Said that ITC battles are no longer happening. You can play them if you want to, obviously, but ITC will be following the mission plan for 9th edition.
Yes.
Yes.
Did I get that right or wrong?
You are correct.
And I would say, and something that I've been saying is like this, the Unite the Clans moment that I've been praying for, and I know Rob has been hoping for, and I pointed out on Chapter Tactics just last night that if you go to a major tournament, the person who runs that major tournament is probably a playtester. So if those guys agree on a common rule set and they've playtested and negotiated what they think a mission pack should look like, they're probably going to use them in their tournaments because they've agreed on it. Yeah. So we might have Warhammer World Peace here, folks.
Finally. Yes, that does mean Nikos correct. R.I.P. the ITC Battles app. Long may you reign.
Yeah, it's a great app. But I mean, that's actually one of the ones that's almost guaranteed to be made obsolete by the Games Workshop app because they have said game tracking will be in it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Yeah. So I think some interesting times there. So how do you, if you guys done a swan song to ITC? Have you guys done a storied history, start to finish, a docu series? Val, that seems right up your street.
I have had some grand delusions of like contact for Pete and I to do during quarantine, of which we've done absolutely none of them.
I did buy a smoking jacket. Fireside with the Falcon will happen. You just wait. I just have to wait for it to be shipped from where the frig it is right now.
And to be clear too, I mean, based on the way they've been talking, this is not the end of ITC. This is the officialization of the ITC by the sounds of it, and Nova, and probably not anything to do with the WTC or ETC. But like the asymmetrical types of missions, I would suspect is something that you're going to see. We already saw a lot of heavy influence in the last chapter approved from, common tournament pack styles in the missions. So like Killmore, Killmore was a feature of one of the Eternal War missions. Hold More was a feature of one of the Eternal War missions. So yeah, I would think that we definitely start to see that. Maelstrom cards, Colonel Cabbage, that's an interesting one. What happens to Maelstrom? Because they finally started to get it.
Yeah. Right
at the end there with that White Dwarf version of Maelstrom, and kind of bummer if they went up, because I think the deck building concept is awesome. Create that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would say it really depends on whose voice was louder, Mike Brandt or Reese Robbins, because Reese did not like cards, and Mike Brandt did. So
there's this weird paranoia about Maelstrom card. Like, so the original Maelstrom, yeah, it's absolute, the drunken commander style.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was
but the number one complaint I see is that people are going to stack their decks, as if CCGs aren't the most common tournament game that exists. I'm sure we can solve for deck cheats. I don't get why that was always the biggest concern in the States anyway.
Yeah. Well, particularly if you look at like highly competitive play in WTC, where these guys burn through the entire deck real quick, it would be very easy to catch a cheat because you like if you're paying half attention, you can be like, this is not what you said you had in your deck. Like it's very obvious you played the whole deck by now, so you've like filtered through the whole thing at least once.
It's a very odd concern. I actually didn't know that was even a concern.
I see it come up all the time. I just don't know. I don't know.
It got brought up it got brought up pretty frequently in the the last iteration of the ITC missions when they were making updates, and some people were like, "Well, why don't we bring in Maelstrom as like a secondary option?" And it got a lot of flack because there is a very large group of people that were like, "Everyone will just cheat. Everyone, the whole world will become just a bunch of cheaters. They'll burn the whole thing to the ground. We'll lose all faith in humanity." Little did they know.
That seems weird.
A little on the nose, Pete.
It seems weird.
I'm cheating right now. That's true.
Born Again Manchild. That is a great name. So yeah, what were we talking about? Missions. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think
I'm actually kind of bummed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
That.
Are you okay? Tell me what's happening.
I really like the concept of everybody going the same route, but at the same time, I also enjoyed there being more than one mission set because it avoided stagnation in certain instances. Like it took a different style of thinking for different mission sets. Like you had to think a little more on your toes. If you looked at the Adepticon mission set when it came out, and if you read sorry, no, not Adepticon, the Dallas Open. Dallas Open did their mission set, and Nick Nanavati did a review of it, and he like lambasted the whole thing. They asked him to, and he was like, "Here's all the things that are wrong with your mission set. It's cool except for blah blah blah," and they completely changed the whole thing. But it added an extra layer having different mission sets out there. I felt to like the strategic gameplay. So I always wished that instead of getting rid of Nova or Adepticon missions or whatever, that we would set up like a system where there was, 2 or 3 big ones, and that was what people used. That you didn't discount them.
That is kind of what happened, though. I mean, there's really 2. There's the WTC set and the ITC set.
Exactly. And, but like Nova did their own thing. Adepticon did their own thing. There's several others that did their own thing. But that was what I was kind of hoping would eventually happen, was we would adopt 2 main for everybody. And that was just what you played. And there would be no longer this like argument of, well, this isn't balanced because you're not using book missions. But there is a benefit to moving to one system. And I understand it.
There is also, though. Sorry, I don't want to jump in. Sorry, you carry on, and I'll say after. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to reiterate what I said. So just go to town.
So I want to pop in. Oh,
go on, Val.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Shit. Oh no. Oh. You go.
Well, I think the only issue you have with it being a singular set and with it being at the behest of a large company is there's very little room for innovation externally. All innovation happens internally, and again, this is not a negative. I think it's a great step forward. And I'm not trying to like put a doom and gloom. And all of the people involved are the people that you would want to be involved. Just like Val said, they're tournament organizers, they're play testers, they're prodigious players. Like they're people who already have the top level of experience that you could want. So they're already the right people to be making changes. The only thing is that like not maybe putting some of that. Resource outside, or maybe just allowing some room for innovation externally sometimes could be the only negative I could maybe see, right? Like, this is the best way to play. This group has worked towards, they assume, doesn't necessarily mean and guarantee that is the best way to play. But let's hope so.
I remember what I was going to say too is one thing though, having a consistent mission basis, so game objective, like what you're trying to do in a given game as being set, is now innovations in format could maybe be stuff that actually I think has a bigger like sway on the game. So if you look at like the different classes of Magic, you have different, cards and sets that you can use in given tournament classes. Different things are set up that like you have legacy. Maybe we start to see legends incursion size tournaments. Where it's more about like the amount of points that you play and what models are allowed determines like that's the bigger deal in the format. Because that's a good way to be able to tweak and like balance things, because then you can have a ban list for like the top tier competitive, but you can also have like an everything goes format. I think those are like, we get really caught up on missions as the important part of the format, and it kind of leaves this whole different, like this whole space. It was very interesting to me, like what was okay to tweak, like what the community would accept as being allowed to fiddle with and change, which missions were always, yeah, that's fine. You can do whatever you want with missions. But you couldn't say, this model's banned. So I think having common missions means now maybe we can have change-ups in the formats that will allow us to add more constraints to the top tier of competitive play, which I think is really what you need to have a good, healthy game. You need to have a real, like a lot more, like a much more tight system, and making it so match play is able to play in a smaller box than maybe other styles of the game, I think would be a big step for competitive 40K.
I think that's really fair. Also, it gives the customer, i.e., us as players, if someone develops like a fucking absolutely smashing way to play, 8 games of 1,000 points over a weekend, and it's like super quick, super fast, super punchy. Like, it might be a more engaging way for someone to play, and someone can innovate in that way. And then people are like, yeah, man, I only go to 1,000-point tournaments now. They're the bomb. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's loads of options.
One of the big rumors coming into COVID-19 was that 40K was going to go to a smaller table size, and I think that like we're going to drop down to a 3x5 or something, something that fits on a kitchen table. And to me, what that maybe will be, I should say, will be that there will be a format that you can play on your kitchen table. There'll be a point size and a system set up so that you can only stomp a tournament. That is an excellent idea, Ace Face. Mm-hmm. There'll be a format that fits in there. So now you can go to a card shop and maybe have a 40K tournament, where they only have like standard size tables instead of these, 6x4s. So I think there's like that kind of, and then maybe that becomes the dominant one because there's like a million more card shops than there are hobby shops. So who knows? I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a viable point. Talking about the space that we're playing on as well. I mean, all the people that own those 6x4 fat mats are going to be pissed. But,
it doesn't get bigger, smaller. Your 6x4 fat mat still fits.
Yeah, unless you bought those ones with the custom designs on them, like the pro tabletop ones.
R.I.P. PTT.
Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah, I think, but that's cool. Pete, any more on the sadness? But just or like
it's just I kind of wish they'd had, like, we could maybe they did. Maybe there's two. Maybe there's like an Eternal War and Maelstrom still. But I always liked the concept of having at least 2 different formats, similar to like NASCAR used to. I don't know if they still do it, but like you had road races versus.
There's only ever one.
Spinny races. There's like, I like the concept where you had to play differently, right? Or based off of, if you go and do a Nova mission versus or WTC versus doing ITC, like there was different styles of play, different ways of thinking. And that's kind of what I was hoping we'd eventually come to. Going to a single rule set does have its benefits. The big one will be I don't have to argue with people about what's broken based off of a mission set any longer. So
I think that's the best thing is like one of the things that's always driven me nuts is like hobby snobbery, and you don't play real 40K. We play a real 40K. And it's like all of you are house ruling missions. You're all not playing out of the book. Shut the hell up. And now everyone's hopefully, we'll see. Maybe they don't get embraced as they've suggested. But hopefully maybe we'll have it so that everyone is on the level field. And then also you can't discredit like some guy ripping it up in Australia because maybe they're playing a wonky format or whatever. Like people will be able to say, no, I'm competing on the same missions as you are. And therefore we're all good. Also, regarding the ITC missions thing, ITC missions being phased out, the champ pack going away does not mean the ITC goes away. everything Reese has been saying has been that GW is not suddenly taking over the ranking system, although I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Their ITC as far as like an organizing group for tournaments and a circuit still exists, will continue to exist as far as we know.
Okay, yeah, I think I think it's all exciting. Personally, I think honestly, for me, I find it quite interesting, especially as you've talked about before, Val, but we've all talked about before, the success that Games Workshop have had over the past 4 or 5 years obviously means that there's more eyes on them, and with competitions getting bigger and bigger, and there being cash prizes and all sorts of other things, it's an exciting future for people to play at a competitive level. And not just play play competitively to have a laugh, play competitively in like a professional environment, which I think is quite important. If you look at, do you follow cricket at all? How Downton Abbey of you?
One of my favorite things about cricket is like they revolutionized the game by realizing they didn't have to play for 3 days in a row.
5 test matches were 5 days.
Why don't we just play for like 6 hours? Maybe people will watch that on TV more.
Well, it's actually India. Is where the development came from. And most people.
I didn't want to do that accent though, Rob, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I didn't want to. But India, if you guys have not followed what's happened with cricket in the going to 2020, the revolution, what's interesting about cricket specifically, different to 40k, and I'd like to just finish on this question for you guys. It's not good enough British fellows in. Is when they revolutionised, or where they changed the way they changed the shape of cricket, was so that it would be a better spectator sport, and it would be more interesting for the player, for people watching at home, basically. Mm-hmm. The dynamic difference in this situation for 40k, for Warhammer, basically, is that the game and playing the game is an important vehicle for them selling models, as opposed to selling cricket bats. So I wonder, what do you think, how they'll try and leverage that, and what we might have seen in this, or if they're even trying to lever it and they've got that level of ability to understand what they're trying to do right now. Because for me, this is my personal. I'll give my answer first, give you guys some time to think. For me, the best thing they can do is make an incredibly engaging game that seems to make sense, and anything that I play with has some sort of veracity in the game. Now, obviously, that's a pie in the sky sort of dream, but the concept that I can pick up a thing and play with a thing and it's decent without being right on the tipping point of understanding competitive nature means they'll be able to sell more, because everything seems accessible, right? But that's for me. That's what I think. They can make the game more interactive, and they can make the game have a better play style and balance. That's my way. What do you guys think?
80?
No, you go. I'm thinking.
So I can riff while you guys think.
Well, no. So for one thing, there will always be an optimal build. I guess that's one thing that Pete is sort of saying. One of the risks of having one format is that you might get to a point where the game is solved. Games Workshop prevents that from happening by never letting the meta settle. So this is actually when you have a lame duck edition like we do right now, this is about as settled as the meta gets, because people maybe are thinking ahead. They're not thinking about the next game. So there'll be about 2 weeks where everything looks potentially good and sexy in the game, and then we'll have in the olden days we would have a few tournaments and we would start to see what the optimal builds will be. So I think that's how Games Workshop really does keep the game vibrant, is by just relentlessly releasing new things into that sort of economy of the game. I agree. The more models and armies that are relevant and have builds, the more healthy the game is. That's probably a lot of the reason why 8th edition felt so much better, is because if you go back one more edition to 7th, there were a handful of factions that were top tier competitive, which means at the store level, the hang out at the local shop and play against your friends level, that meant that the guy who had a certain faction just kicked the shit out of everybody every time, and there was no fun, and the game felt bad for the majority of people. at the tournament level, it meant that you saw the same builds repeatedly sort of winding up in matchups. And yeah, there was a really interesting micro game that went along with that. In the nuance of it, if you were super into it, it was engaging. But ultimately, it was it was proven because the game wasn't as big or popular that it wasn't as good. 8th edition came, and suddenly you had pretty much every faction with multiple potential builds. Usually one really good one, but that's just gonna happen. That's how things work. You're gonna find the most efficient option, and I think hopefully 9th is a step again where you get even more potential builds for each faction. And there's so many models in each line that should be possible. You should be able to have multiple relevant builds for each faction based on the strengths of that line. So I guess I agree with you, but I think it just depends. As long as they didn't inadvertently make one type of army or unit type super dominant, then we should be able to say those things.
Yeah. I think that mirrors what I've said. Yeah, Pete, you got any thoughts? It's okay if not. It was a big question that, and I don't really know if there's even many answers to it. Maybe that's just the answer.
No. I think everything you've said is kind of dead on. I mean, when you think about competitive play in other games, there is a design philosophy. Like if you watch Mark Rosewater talk about Magic the Gathering, for example, where they intentionally make things bad to teach players what is good. So I'm perfectly okay with everything in the game being decent, but that there are bad models, because you want to be able to teach, like if you want to, at least when you want to play competitively, which is kind of like, my wheelhouse, what I like to talk about, it's perfectly acceptable for somebody to bring like 6 tactical squads in a list. And they might have fun in their garage, but they just have to be like, they have to learn when they go to a tournament that that's not going to work, because a tactical squad just isn't as good as like X other options in the codex. That being said, you do want to make sure, like Val said, that everybody has a chance, so that, if you are married to Necrons, there is at least a couple of Necron builds that are functional, not just one. I think 8th edition at times did a really good job of this. And then we had other releases, and this is kind of the problem with the current setup, where they're kind of married to books, etc., where you can like grossly imbalance the game for too long a period of time. So we'll have to see. I 100% agree that I would hope that everybody is in a land where things are at least there's a modicum of balance. But I'm also super okay with units being garbage. I want that. I want people to be able to learn that, you bought models that are really bad. Don't use them anymore if you want to play competitively.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that philosophy before. That makes sense. I guess, yeah. I think for me the way is having the information so it's relevant. This is designed to be bad. Have fun. Yeah. But we got to go now. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you so much, Val and Pete. You got any big shout outs? Anyone you say any loves to?
Big shout out to my heart gremlin. He's been going through a lot of struggle lately. Usually I'm really excited when bad things happen, but just a little bit. And he's just super tired now. So shout out to him. You did a good job since the Bush administration. You've held me together, and now you can rest.
I don't know. I guess I'll go with a little bit of a platitude. Yeah, like there are always good and there are always bad people in the world. Don't get too hung up on either end of that spectrum, and seek the good people and be a quality human to everyone around you. I think that is an important thing to say at a time like this. And remember to love the things that make you happy, like silly games like Warhammer, when we're stuck in quarantine and the world seems to be falling apart. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I honestly don't have anything that's better to say. Apart from I love you all, especially you two. You two are great. Anyone who's watching live, appreciate you. Look after each other, stay healthy, spread love, drink loads of water, and have a great day.
Don't touch your face.
Also, don't touch your face. Have a great day. Goodbye.